charming little town.
The first thing I noticed in Lyon was the pigeons. I know, they're in every city, but there's something comforting about them. They don't care about being watched or judged, they're just there. They take up space without hesitation, without guilt. I kind of envy that. Because for me, and maybe for a lot of us, being seen always comes with this tension. Like the second someone notices you, they're silently forming an opinion. And even if they never say it out loud, you can sometimes feel it. But pigeons, they don't think like that. They just exist. They remind you that it's possible to just be without performing. And Lyon itself feels like that too. It's beautiful and lively, but not in a way that screams for attention. Paris. It's not putting on a show. It just is. It's full of tiny details you can only catch if you're really paying attention, like a hidden carving on a wall or a tiny alley that wasn't on the map. And maybe that's why it feels so human. It feels almost enchanting. It doesn't need to be quote-unquote perfect to be worth noticing. Because perfection isn't what makes something meaningful. And when you let yourself notice the imperfect things, you realize that the imperfect parts are often what give a place or a piece of art its personality. There are so many lovely trinket and souvenir shops, and while I didn't buy anything because I'm trying to be a bit more responsible, the soft, whimsical elements of Lyon made me fall in love with it almost instantly. I went into many bookshops because, of course, and I flipped through some graphic novels. There was something so freeing about them. The lines weren't clean, the colors didn't match in the way you're taught they should. Some of the pages were smudged and messy, but it felt alive. They had a personality. They didn't feel like they were made to impress someone. They felt like they were honest and truthful. And like the only thing that mattered was their message. And I know, you're probably thinking I'm over-romanticizing Lyon because so many places are like this. But I've been feeling some kind of way lately, and I guess the lens that I'm watching the world through is just kind of like reminding me that art doesn't have to be perfect to matter. It doesn't have to be beautiful in a way everyone agrees on. Sometimes it just has to exist. Sometimes the fact that you made it at all is all that matters. After visiting a few churches, I left and made my way towards the funiculaires, which are these uphill metro trains. There's something oddly charming about them. They feel like a shortcut into another version of the city. It's slow and creaky and makes you feel like you're being gently pulled into a new layer of Lyon that you wouldn't normally reach on foot, even though I do think it's possible.
It was broken. They're so cute. Oh, new friend is joining them. They're just so chill. I think one thing I can promise you or threaten you with from my vlogs is pigeons. Expect them to be there always. Look! Hello? I'm not feeling well. Super cute town, would highly recommend it. Reminds me of Florence in some ways. Like a little mix of Florence and Paris, but like much more chill and relaxed.
After a bit of walking, I found the first panoramic viewpoint that I was trying to get to, and it was completely empty, which at first, felt amazing, like I'd stumbled into a secret spot no one else knew about, until I realized why. There were no trees. There was no shade, just concrete and sun, and it was scorching. You could feel the heat rising off the ground, and within 5 minutes, it was hard to even think. So I didn't stay very long, and there's something funny about that, about seeking out this perfect view, this postcard version of a city, only to find that you can't even enjoy it because it's uncomfortable. And maybe that's a metaphor for how we chase perfection in general. Even when you find it, it doesn't always feel the way you thought it would. And so I left and decided to move on to the second spot, which is the Basilica of Notre Dame of Fourvière. Apologies if I butchered that.
I'm so tired. Don't do the walk. Don't do the walk. Just take the tram or the train or whatever it is. Just don't do the walk. It's so uphill. At least it's windy.
This one was different. Every inch of it was covered in mosaics. Floor, wall, ceilings, and paint. It was overwhelming, but in the most majestic way. Like, you couldn't just glance around, you had to actively look, zoom in with your eyes, and try and understand what was going on. Because simply thinking about all the energy, effort, and brain power it took to even understand what tiny colored piece of rocks go where and how many you need, and how to position them just right, must have taken an enormous amount of brain power and time. Afterwards, I found a small patisserie nearby, grabbed a raspberry pastry and some cold water, and I sat in the shade outside. And this is where I pushed myself a little. I took out my sketchbook, and I hate drawing in public. It makes me feel like I'm being watched, even if hopefully no one's looking. Like, everyone's kind of silently evaluating if my art is good enough, and maybe that's the scariest part of making anything at all. Knowing that it will be seen, knowing that people, especially people you know, will quietly watch and decide what they think. But I drew anyway. It wasn't amazing. It's actually bad. It's really bad. But here's the thing I keep reminding myself of. When you make something, it becomes a kind of language. The lines you draw, the words you write, the photos you take, they're all time capsules. They hold the fingerprints of that very moment. And so when I look back at the sketch later, even if it's lopsided and awkward, which it is, it'll remind me of exactly where I was. The taste of the pastry, the pink light on the church walls, the sounds of the pigeons. A perfect photograph of the pastry might not be able to do that, but this messy drawing can remind me what it felt like. And that's why I think skill doesn't always matter. The point isn't to impress anyone, not even yourself. The point is sometimes to simply remember. So I sat there, drawing while the day slowly shifted into evening. The sky turned soft pink, like watercolor bleeding into paper, and I put my sketchbook away and just enjoyed the ambiance. And that was Lyon. Thank you for spending the day with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.